Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Big day today, talking about a big weekend in Baylor athletics that's coming up. Softball, baseball, track, tennis, everything. You name it, we probably got it. And you know what else we got? We got a national championship football game on the cusp with the FCS Championship for the first time in the spring. They moved the season due to COVID-19. The FCS did in the spring. A lot of schools, University of Central Arkansas, Stephen F. Austin, some of the elite schools said, we're not doing it. We're not playing in the spring. We're playing in the fall. Our guys are getting a shot at the NFL straight up. We're going to do this thing the right way, the normal way, the way we've always done it. But there are schools, a la James Madison, Sam Houston State, South Dakota, North Dakota State, that said, we will play. We will play in the spring, and we got a national championship on the cusp of it tomorrow. Sam Houston State, South Dakota State. Should be a fun one.
And a lot of them turning around and playing in the fall, too. So these guys will finish this game and then go and have another season in the fall. That's going to be just taxing on the body, man. It's going to be taxing. You got a horse in that game, though?
FCS Championship game is actually Sunday. Sunday at 1 o'clock Central Time. My horse has got to be Sam Houston. I want those guys to win it. What the house that Brian built. Brian Bell couldn't pull it off when he played in 2 national championships, those in 2011 and 2012. I think this is the time where China Springs head football coach Brian Bell's alma mater takes things home. You like in Sam Houston State?
I'm with you, dude. Standing on the shoulders of giants, the giants being Brian Bell. Getting it done, man. I'm excited for them. And Schmid's a baller, too. That offense is potent. They're like 22nd, I think, in terms of scoring defense, so they got it on both sides of the ball. I'm excited, man. I think it'll be fun. I love that it's like a meaningful game at this point in the year.
Right. That's the point.
Right. That's a point.
That's the first point that I'm going to make in support of the FCS making the transition and staying in spring football because the hype around the game. Folks are talking more about FCS football now than they would be in the fall, and I think that's objective. The fact that FCS football, it is the only football going on right now, and people are more engaged with it than they would be. The fact that the FCS does not have a great TV deal means that folks aren't as maybe engaged. They're not reaching their maximum engagement potential. That said, there are folks talking about Sam Houston State and South Dakota State being in the national title. Most years. Hey, Drake, it's the week of the FCS National Championship game. Who's playing in it? Well, North Dakota State. Yeah, that's right. And insert other team here. Yeah. Most years I would have zero idea who's playing in the FCS Championship. This year I know both the teams playing, how they got there, follow the road to the championship. If you love college football or college sports, you've been watching this, and that is a great adage to the FCS being in the spring.
This is why it's tough, because as a fan, I am very much with you. Like, I want all the football there is and then some. I want football in the winter, spring, summer, fall, and on every single weekday. Like, I love that. I live for action. Now, when it comes to logistically, I don't know how you can make this happen. So I hate to be the guy where it's like, I like this, but I don't know how we get it done. No, they didn't.
They just played in the spring.
They're losing. This is not sustainable. They're going to lose so much money. All these schools that are playing are losing money to play. Like, they don't make the same revenue as these other schools do. All their revenue comes from playing the big FBS schools, So that's where it's like, I would love for this to happen, but there's so many things that you sacrifice. So for a year, it's fun. Like, I think this is great for this year. I love they're playing. I love these teams are getting a chance to go and compete on the biggest stage and have all the eyes of the nation on them. I would love that to be something that is sustainable, but right now, there's not a system in place to make that happen.
What are the odds, though, that a TV deal, and especially with players being able to be paid for their likenesses moving forward, a la Trey Lance. Trey Lance would have made a lot of money for North Dakota State had he been able to sell his likeness moving through a spring football season in the FCS. When you have the idea of a big-time TV deal or someone picking these games up because folks want to watch them, the revenue then comes in. Also, you're going to gain more revenue. So I grew up in Conway, Arkansas. University of Central Arkansas was a top 10 FCS program year in and year out. Coach Clint Conk was there for a long time, was very good. Then Nathan Brown took him to the playoffs again. But the biggest show in town, whether they had won 10 games that season or 3 games that season, was 2.5 hours away.
Okay.
Saturday rolls around, folks in Central Arkansas are not going to watch UCA games. They would love to, but even the UCA alumni, they're going up to Fayetteville to watch Arkansas play. Look at Texas. You got your Sam Houston State, your SFA, your niche people, but even those alumni grew up supporting Tech, Texas, Baylor, A&M, one of those schools. So in that case, now you're saying, hey, you move it to the spring. There are a lot of folks that just don't care that much about college baseball. I would say college baseball and FCS football now are decently comparable. decently comparable.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers on that, but I think
a handful
right.
of schools.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it would match up pretty well, pretty decently. So then if you take that transition and you move it to the spring and you give those fans, football fans, an opportunity to watch good college football, well, they're going to eat that up.
Yeah.
So the revenue that's going to come off of more fans, more butts in the seats, and a TV deal, I think makes up for the X amount of that hundreds of thousands of dollars that come in from playing an FBS school.
I just have a harder time buying in that there will be that. I think it depends on your market. Like I don't.
Well, you're seeing it right now.
Well, I don't. No, you're not seeing it right now. People are not going to these games. We're not seeing more money poured into these things.
We're in a pandemic.
We're not seeing more money in these games. There's not good ratings for these games. Like the games that are on right now, they're not getting millions of viewers. I mean, they're getting millions of viewers, but like probably I would guess somewhere around 5 to 6 million. Like
a fraction of
probably like not enough to build your house on. Also, to make your point about Trey Lance, I could see that being a carrot for him, but also he's got substantially more money coming his way from foregoing the spring season so he can get ready for the NFL draft. So you'll see these guys that are the big show, the reason that you watch FCS football, they're going to forego their senior season. And also with the transfer rule, they'll leave from the FCS level after one good year because they're all going to get poached. And you're going to see that at the lower level of FBS too. The MAC players, the American Athletic players, all those guys, if they have an all-conference season, I would say at least 60% of those guys are going to go end up at a Power 5 school. So that's going to be the problem they find themselves in. Financially, I would love for this to be possible, but I don't see how they're going to make it happen because all these other athletic programs, too, are depending on it. Like women's soccer is depending on North Dakota State playing Kansas State, that first game of the season, to get their nut to be able to play their season.
Well, look at it like this. So my point is, from a revenue standpoint, you take that North Dakota State-Kansas State game away. North Dakota State doesn't get that revenue, but they do get the TV deal, the revenue of butts in the seats, which you're taking a chance, and it's going to be niche places. You talked about it. Some fan bases are different than others, but there are a lot of programs going to be able to make that money back up by having more opportunity to bring more fans, more fan engagement, having the opportunity to play on national television when you sign a deal with ESPN or Fox or CBS or whoever. I want to make this point. Budget-wise, I know you're saying, like, hey, that first game between Kansas State and North Dakota State is what's going to define your athletic budget for the rest of the year. If I'm an athletic director, I want my 2021 athletic budget to be defined by the money I make in 2020. So I am perfectly fine with my revenue, my bulk of my revenue coming in the spring. So going into the next fall and into the next calendar year, I know full well, here's my X amount budget for all of my smaller sports based off of the money that we made last spring.
But how are you getting that money? Because if the product is watered down on the field with guys leaving, the TV deal,
is it watered down?
So. Are you watching North Dakota State if Trey Lance isn't playing?
Substantially
less people. Also, they only get 22% of their revenue comes from like in-game concessions, tickets, all that stuff. Like you're not paying top dollar to go watch North Dakota State.
That boosts now,
Does it
and
boost
a TV deal
from 22%. Like I don't think
a TV deal.
So the Ivy League actually got a TV deal with ESPN, and it hasn't done anything for
ESPN Plus. I'm talking
ESPN.
like
ESPN. They have every Friday night there was the Ivy League game of the week. And
it's Friday nights. That's high school football.
Most
of the country's watching high school football.
That's the same argument as spring as is Friday is to Saturday as spring is to fall. So I mean nobody's watching a college football game on Friday night.
You don't
probably.
think so? Oh yeah, in the fall. Yeah,
in the fall. So I mean the approach to that was okay. Friday night you're not competing with other big games. Go and watch the Ivy League game, which I'm sure was probably a boost in ratings, but it didn't move the needle for any of these schools.
Saturday rolls around in the spring. You make it commonplace that football is going to be on. And when it becomes commonplace, I think you can have a stay in football being in the spring and the FCS playing in the spring. On top of that, you're talking about how the quality goes down because guys are transferring out. Isn't that the point?
No.
Yes.
Why would that be the point for guys to transfer out of your school?
My thing is not that you have to transfer. These guys now get more exposure on national television, more exposure in front of big schools. So if I'm Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M,
right,
I'm in the middle of my gosh darn football season at Texas A&M. I'm not watching, Trey Smith, who's over here playing defensive tackle for Sam Houston State.
You're saying
I'm paying attention to my guys.
If they're both in the fall.
If they're both in the fall.
Yes.
So then you move in the spring. Well, then I'm Jimbo Fisher, and we just got done with spring practice. I'm sitting on my butt. I may be making some recruiting calls, but most of my staff's doing that. Boop, boop, pop the TV on. Shoot, man, that Trey Smith guy from South Dakota State, that dude's huge. He's running over everybody. I mean, I ought to give that guy a call. You're getting more national television exposure, and you're getting you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I'm saying? It will open up more opportunity for guys to transfer out of the FCS and it will become, effectively, the FCS will become a farm system, a more sustainable farm system for guys to move up to the FBS and have more NFL draft, a better NFL draft prospect.
But why would you want that if you're the FCS? You don't want your guys getting poached by the schools.
But you do. It's the same. It's the same. You want your guys to be able to go pro. If you're looking at athletes first, I'm thinking an athletes first standpoint.
Okay.
Now you're giving these FCS players a better opportunity to go to the NFL, make money playing professional football by getting them in front of more people, by getting them having more opportunities for them to transfer to bigger institutions and make money playing the game of football. That only helps you as an FCS school.
The sad reality is these programs, I say these programs meaning like the conferences, the governing bodies, they're not thinking athletes first. They're thinking money first. And so for them, they're not trying to get their guys to the FBS level. They want them to stay at the FCS level and win a lot of games and try and make the most of their exposure nationally. So I think that could be a benefit in the spring if they're able to make that happen. But logistically, you don't want your guys going to that will never be something they're motivated by, is getting their guys to the next level. They want them to stay there, win games, bring in money. That's what they want. They don't want them to go to the FBS.
Well, you're going to make money too off of your Jerry Rices that go and play FCS football, and they come and have this illustrious NFL career and then walk back and you name the stadium Jerry Rice Stadium because he gave you $20 million.
But if Jerry Rice transfers out to Alabama, he's not going to come back and say, hey, thank you so much to Missouri Valley State for having me on. That's not going to be what I think he went to somewhere like Jackson State, maybe?
I think it was Missouri Valley.
State.
I think it was Missouri Valley.
Jackson State was Walter Payton. But anyway.
It becomes a glorified farm system where these guys are almost like high school. It's almost like high school. It's like high school, then you meet a JUCO, but instead of JUCO, you go FCS, which is more legitimate than JUCO. You're going to get better competition than JUCO, and then you go from there to the FBS.
But you don't as an FCS school want to be a farm system for another college football program. You don't want
Why?
FCS.
You're already not sustaining yourself very well.
What are you talking about?
The FCS is already not sustaining itself very well. You already said the only way they sustain themselves is by playing big time games against Division I opponents.
Yes.
So now you give yourself the opportunity by becoming a farm system to sustain yourself better by playing in the spring.
No, you don't become a better product. You don't sustain yourself better by having your best players go to other schools, making the product on the field effectively worse. I'm not watching college football, and I'm not watching North Dakota State without Trey Lance, without Carson Wentz.
Why?
Because it's way less exciting. I want to see the best athletes play, and that's why people go watch the FBS games, because you go see guys that are going to play on Sunday playing on Saturday. You get to see them. That's at the farm system. You don't want to see them go from FCS to FBS. You would never want that to be the case. I think that I have a hard time getting behind that, because you're watering down the product on the field then.
I think your top 25 teams are still going to put it out there. Your top 25 teams in the FCS are going to put it out there. Look at it, it's the same as college football. College football is a farm system for the NFL. Those guys leave for the NFL. Then now all the college football players leaving for the NFL. College football is going to suck. Well, no, you're going to keep reloading guys into the FCS that are that caliber of player that are looking for FBS, but they have FBS potential, NFL potential. I watched a lot of UCA games growing up, Central Arkansas, and they were top 10 team year in and year out, playing on the stripes, air it out. Top 25 FCS football is fun to watch. Granted, outside of the top 25, when you get your William and Mary versus, I don't want Towson's usually pretty good, but William and Mary and Alabama A&M are squaring off in a random game on September 8th. No one's watching it. No one cares. And the product on the field sucks. So why would you care? FBS, let me take you here.
Yes, go.
Northwestern, most years, is playing Vanderbilt. I don't give a rat's ass. Why? Who would?
Wow.
Why would?
We upgraded from A-word. We're now saying it. All right. There it is.
We did right there.
Bring it.
Because I'm passionate about my FCS conversation.
So I cut you off. What were you saying?
I just don't, in that situation, I'm not going to watch either. So the argument that the product leaves, okay, great. Yeah, it will when the competition's bad in the FBS level too.
I will tell you, the ratings for a Vanderbilt Northwestern game would be substantially better than William and Mary in Towson.
But this change, a move to spring football could alter that for the better for the FCS.
But then the best players leave. I don't see why that would be something
the best players
you would want.
Why would you ever want that? The best players in the FBS leave.
Not for another school typically. I mean, we'll see it now, but you would never want, our business model is now to be, we're going to be a farm system for another college. So come here for a year, help this program for a year so we can get you out to Alabama. You would never want to be the lesser option for these schools. These kids are coming here because it's the best level of football they can play. And also, I don't know how you would be able to transfer, because you're going from spring to fall, and so you'd have to redshirt a whole nother year. There just becomes so much that's a part of that logistically where I'm why would we want to do that if we're the FCS?
How tough is that? How tough is it, your experience, to play? I mean, how much time do you need to recoup after a football season?
You need, everyone's different. Everyone's schedule is different. I would say you need a solid month and a half before you start feeling like yourself again. After that last game, you've probably lost 10-ish pounds from just the wear and tear of the season. A lot of guys have stuff that's torn, stuff that's nagging, like off-season workouts. We had a 6-week winter break, and guys were just chilling for that 6 weeks. Like, there was workouts, but a lot of guys were just getting back on their feet from that 10-game season. And these guys that are playing in the FCS playoff are playing somewhere around 16 games, I think it is. So, I mean, you're battered. You're battered and bruised, and you don't want to walk in and play another game.
So say you start the FCS season first week of February. You roll for 2-3 months, January, February, March, April, May. You play the chance. So kind of what they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And then now you have the summer off for the most part. Most collegiate FBS football players have the summer off, technically. You got your summer workout, summer 1, summer 2, but you're not full pads again until August 1st.
Something like that,
That's
usually around when
so,
start,
you get your workouts, but you're still getting that same replenishing. So these guys, you go your fall season in the FBS, you go spring football, you do your hard-hitting, full pad, spring practices for a while, spring game. After that, you go into that same period of like, hey, let's get back up to health so we can start summer workouts, do your classes in the summer, be on campus in the summer. So then these guys will be coming after a football season, but they'll have that same opportunity to recharge, reload for 2 or 3 months in summer 1 and summer 2 before they go back full pads in August.
But you're cutting in half the time that you're getting to recover. And also the way that you're working out is substantially different. Like winter, you're building up your body, you're putting back on weight, you're getting your wind. A lot of it's like just getting your body back underneath you. Summer 1, summer 2, you're getting fast. Like you're getting your quick twitch muscles going, a lot of the power clean lifts, a lot of your maxes, like you're getting quick and twitchy and explosive.
You don't think
you cut a whole piece of that away. I think it's tough to do that.
I mean, if I'm Vic Valori and I'm looking at a guy that just played a full FCS season, your summer 1 looks a lot different than Apu Aika, who's preparing to be an all Big 12 first teamer.
But he has 100 some odd guys. He's not going to go in. I would think.
Well, he's got a full staff.
He won't go in and make a whole new program. They're going to want to expect you to be up to speed.
But your program. It differs for every player at where their level is. Hey, I got a nagging ankle. Okay, your workout system looks a little bit different than this guy who's at full strength, full health.
Yeah, but you don't want to be doing that. Like the guys that are in the rehabilitation phase, like that, like your number one goal to be. Like if you're in the training room, number one goal is to be out of the training room. Like that sucks to be there. And that whole, like to be in a lesser group is just tough when everyone else is working out and maxing and you're over there doing like whatever your rehabilitation is. Like that is a bummer. And I don't think other programs like to deal with that.
Is it not safe to say, though, from a player standpoint, if we're not talking about even for the universities, I know you said that the universities don't want to be a farm system. From a player standpoint, the prospect of having more exposure, more opportunity to sell your likeness, because there will be FCS stars. There will be guys that come up out of the ranks. If it's in the spring and folks are latching onto it, guys that wouldn't be stars in the FBS, they'd be a third string receiver at Alabama. But now this guy's vying for FCS Player of the Year because he's torching guys for $250 a game, and he's got this crazy sob story background, and everybody loves him, and now he's making money for his likeness. I mean, this could be so much better for the players when it comes to NFL draft prospect, being paid for their likeness, and just getting in front of cameras, getting in front of people. This would be a great move for the players from that regard.
But if you're nice like that, the one-time transfer rule is almost better because you can transfer to the FBS, have a full calendar year to get in at a natural point, have spring ball. If you're doing the spring season, you're battered. And even if you are all that in a bag of chips from a PR standpoint, which I don't think FBS programs are taking too much into account. Maybe the player is. I bet he's saying, hey, if I can go to Alabama, I'll go to Alabama. But it is more beneficial to have the one-time transfer rule. And they can still make that leap to the FBS level and make more money for themselves. Like, I don't think the FCS spotlight will be quite as big. Maybe it could be in like 5 to 10 years. I think it could eventually get there.
This is a long-term decision.
It's a huge if.
It's a long-term decision that you make, and I think it'll benefit athletes in a lot of different ways. On top of that, one of the things I think goes along with that as well, we just had a caller on here that dropped, but call us back if you can. We'll get you in here right now. We're about to hit the call lines. One of the things that comes with that is, okay, would you rather play New Mexico State? New Mexico State is FBS. Mm-hmm. Would you rather play as a starter, a pretty darn good player for New Mexico State, or be the star of North Dakota State? Would you rather be...
Schools paid for it both?
Would you rather be a pretty good running back at New Mexico State, sharing time with another guy, or the star at North Dakota State?
I'd rather be an NFL prospect at North Dakota State, for sure.
So you'd rather be at North Dakota State?
Yes.
So... Again, there are FCS programs that have bigger brands than FBS programs.
Definitely.
There's a handful.
And that's who it'll benefit. Like, if we move to the spring, it'll benefit 15 to 20 programs. The schools like my school,
why won't that
Cornell,
grow? Why won't it grow, though?
Because there's just not a fan base there for it. You're upstate Ithaca, New York. Nobody's coming to those games to begin with. Like, even if you're going to the school, you're probably not going to the game because they just don't care. Like, it'll benefit the JMUs, it'll benefit North Dakota State, benefit Sam Houston State, all those schools that have some sort of buzz around their FCS program. But if you're a school like I said, Cornell's a perfect example. You're hard to get to, your fan base doesn't care, and it's just going to make it even harder for guys that do want to go play at another school to get there.
You don't think the spring season would generate more buzz at all?
No, because the weather's bad. People won't be out there. In the Northeast, there's going to be snow. People don't want to go watch games outside.
That's in the FBS or FCS. Syracuse football, their
inside.
attendance numbers, and they still suck.
Yeah,
their attendance numbers still suck.
Yeah.
So that's just regional. You have Maine. Maine has an FCS football team. Mm-hmm. I bet all sub-zero people go to those games. The parents probably question themselves as they're getting ready in the morning to go to that game. It's 11 o'clock between
dark.
Maine and Northeastern State. So,
Dark.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about maybe this doesn't benefit Cornell, but does the fall season benefit Cornell?
More than the spring would, yeah, 100%.
I mean, how can you say that without the spring?
100%, because you're not going, because the biggest game of the season for Cornell is homecoming. You get about 20,000 some odd people there. It's the
20,
biggest
000?
game. It's awesome.
20,000.
Fill out the Crescent.
Awesome.
It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
It's a great experience. You move that to the
20,000?
spring. 20,000 in the Crescent.
That's
bro.
a lot.
It's awesome.
That's
it's
nuts.
phenomenal. I mean, it's hilarious to juxtapose that with Game 10 when it's cold, playing Columbia, and it's like 3,000 people there. All that's to say,
Even 3,000.
yeah, I mean, it's all spread out. Anyway, all that's to say, you won't get that 20,000 people there in the spring because it'll be 16 degrees, it'll be snowy, and people will be like, all right, well, we're going to go do something else inside. Like, that's just going to be
We're going to do not
case.
this.
Yeah. So I think it's going to benefit a lot of programs. Like, for JMU, North Dakota State, they could probably make it happen in the spring.
Yeah.
For the rest of the FCS, I don't know how you do that.
Spring's going to be beautiful, man. Spring in Ithaca? Come on.
It's dark, dude.
Flowers are blooming. It's May in Ithaca.
If it's
Everybody
30
come on
degrees,
out.
you got shorts on. Because you haven't seen 30 degrees in months.
Open up the phone lines here. We got T-Rex followed by Matt and DC. That's a power duo right there.
Love it.